Hi, I'm John Nixon from Eagle Lake Woodworking. Welcome to part 5 of the video series on how I built my pool table. This video focuses on the last remaining component of the leg system, the corbels. Now I faced a tough decision whether to add corbels to the leg system or not. And if I did, what shape would they be? I considered a few different choices. I considered a long, slender corbel like this one, but that was just a little bit too over the top. I even considered shorter, stumpier corbels, but they looked odd. What I ended up with was something in between. And I think the end result is nice. It gives a lift to the leg system, so they don't appear so short. And it also adds to the visual effect that the leg system is reaching out and supporting the massive weight of the pool table underneath. In this video, I cover the basics of lamination, pattern routing, and veneering to make the corbels. Let me show you how they're done.
The core of the corbel is made up of 3 pieces of plywood. The center is wider than the other 2, and it creates a tongue which will fit into a groove in the leg system. I begin by making a pattern out of 1/2 inch MDF that I cut out on the bandsaw. It's important that the edges on your pattern are smooth, because any flaws in the pattern will get transferred to the pieces that you're creating. I trace the pattern onto the plywood. I can fit 2 in a pretty tight space by flipping the pattern over. For the centerpiece, I just add 3/4 of an inch onto the back side of the pattern to form the tongue. I cut the plywood into more manageable pieces on the table saw and then move over to the bandsaw to cut them out. I stay about a 1/16 of an inch outside the line. I glue up the core for the corbel using yellow glue and brads. With the cores glued up, it's time to move over the router table to do the pattern routing. It's a 2-step process. I start with a flush cut bit that has a bearing on the bottom, and the bearing will ride against the pattern and cut its full height into the core. I use double-sided tape to stick the pattern to the workpiece. After the bottom bearing bit does its work, I'll install a top bearing bit into the router that will ride against the portion that's already been cut and trim the rest of the corbel. I bring the workpiece into the router bit gently and work at a pace that's suitable for the amount of material that I'm removing. I stay away from the very front of the corbel. That's to avoid kickback. I'll clean that up on the horizontal belt sander. The horizontal belt sander makes quick work of truing up all the flat sides of the corbel. I cut some Quartersawn white oak panel material for the sides of the corbel. Again, I cut these on the bandsaw and stay a little bit outside of the line. I'll glue them to the core using yellow glue, and I'll put masking tape to hold them in place while I clamp them. I gang up all 4 corbels in one assembly and clamp them all at once. After they're dry, it's just a simple matter of using a flush cut bit to trim them even with the core. Now we have a nice smooth edge that's flush with the face of the corbel. I need to remove the very end of the tongue on the corbel so that it doesn't bottom out in the groove that we'll make in the leg. And I'll do this at the bandsaw. I need to cut some veneer for the curved face of the corbel. I do this by using a simple jig on the table saw that sandwiches the veneer between two pieces of MDF. The portion that I wish to keep is inside of the MDF sandwich. To veneer the curved face of the corbel, I've created a clamp block that is the exact negative of the shape of the corbel. And this will provide positive pressure during the glue up so that the veneer adheres properly to the face of the corbel. I tape the veneer on the tip of the corbel and then spread yellow glue. A couple more pieces of tape will prevent the veneer from sliding around during the clamp up. Clamps in both directions ensure enough pressure to bring the veneer tight to the surface. What we're looking for is no gaps between the veneer and the core. This looks great. After the veneer is dried, we've got some trimming to do. Take that long piece off on the bandsaw and then sand the rest off on the belt sander. To trim the sides of the corbel, I use the flush cut bit on the router table. Since it's an uneven shape, I have to change the bit height periodically to make sure that the bearing still rides against the side of the corbel. After trimming the face of the veneer, I'll sand it with 240, and this will blend the edge of the veneer together with the side of the corbel. This step's really important. It blends the two pieces of wood together and really makes it look like a solid piece of wood. We just have this little portion at the top to veneer. I'll glue on a little piece and tape it in place. After this piece is dried, I can trim the excess with a sharp utility knife. I also sand this piece to blend it in with the surrounding faces of the corbel. To make the groove in the leg, I use a 1/2-inch spiral upcut bit in the router table, and I've set up a stop block which will determine the length of the groove. I've also added feather boards which keep the leg tight against the fence during this operation. The first pass yields a groove that's a 1/2 inch wide. I need to move the fence 1/4 of an inch back and make the second pass. I make a test piece to see if the tongue on the corbel fits snugly in the groove. After making the second pass, I have my 3/4 inch wide groove and the corbel fits nicely. It was difficult to decide on the shape and scale of the corbels, but I'm pleased with the result. They look like a solid piece of quartersawn white oak that adds to the visual effect of the massive leg system. Corbels were an integral element in arts and crafts furniture. Although these corbels aren't structural, they really add to the authentic look of the leg system. To view the rest of the videos in this series and videos on other topics, visit eaglelakewoodworking.com and click on the videos link. You can even sign up to be notified when new videos become available.